To say Stellar Blade is absolutely stunning would be an understatement, but you do need to tweak a few things to ensure you're at full cuteness while slashing your way through the ugly things that exist in the Stellar Blade universe. But worry not, as I've compiled a list of the best settings and tweaks you need to enable to maximize your gameplay, so let's get right into it. The game actually offers quite a healthy choice of customization options to tweak Stellar Blade how you wish, ranging from the ability to change your HUD settings to enable settings that hugely assist with your gameplay, and even the option to change Eve's ponytail because, you know, important stuff. However, one of the first settings you will absolutely need to enable is the Autoloot setting. In Stellar Blade, you're spoiled for choice with the number of items you can pick up, but one thing you're not spoiled with is having to use the R2 button to pick up each individual item. R2 being the action button is a silly choice on its own, but that's for another day. Thankfully, Stellar Blade provides the option for you to bypass this completely. All you need to do is head over to the settings, go to gameplay, and look for the Autoloot items option. Toggle this on and there you have it. Now, anytime you run over items, Eve will auto-loot for you, meaning you don't have to use the frustratingly odd choice of R2 as your action button. Stellar Blade's combat systems are actually a ton of fun, offering numerous combinations that require precise timing to be successful. This can be a bit overwhelming for new players though, even on the easiest setting of story mode, which is where action assist can save the day. With this setting enabled, you'll be given a visual real-time prompt that slows down time during certain moments of combat. This prompts you to complete an action and allows you to gather yourself and plan your next move. This is the perfect setting for beginners, but would actually recommend turning this setting off. This will allow you to face more of a balanced challenge before you decide to try out the regular difficulty. This is a huge safety net that you don't get access to when you choose the next difficulty, so it's better to get in the habit of not using it in story mode to allow for an easier transition. As I mentioned before, Stellar Blade is a visually stunning game, but the visuals can get a bit too much at times, and luckily the devs incorporated these settings just prior to the game's official release to allow you to tweak your experience. Adjusting these settings can greatly enhance your immersion and engagement in the game. The team introduced two new options, film grain and chromatic aberration, which are hidden in the settings display menu. Film grain, as the name suggests, adds more of a cinematic effect, adding a noisy texture overlay to the in-game graphics. Chromatic aberration is a bit harder to explain, but essentially controls the amount of light leaks to certain edges within the game, and when done correctly, provides a color bleed and ghosting effect that can look stunning, which thankfully is the case in Stellar Blade. Both of these options can be disabled in the game if you want a much cleaner graphics overlay, but to be honest, it can really detract from the vibe that Stellar Blade is trying to give, so this is another option I'd strongly recommend keeping. The next setting can be really immersive or really annoying, there's no in between, but thankfully, the devs have given us the option to toggle it off if needed. While playing Stellar Blade, numerous sounds will play while exploring the world or when engaged in combat, and while personally I loved it, you do have the option to disable it. All you need to do is head over to settings, head to sound, find the controller speaker setting and disable it, and then you'll be free to explore without your controller shouting at you if that's your thing. Oh, and this kind of goes hand in hand with this setting, but you can also turn off the adapted triggers in the control settings if you find them a bit too much. And speaking of too much, Stellar Blade absolutely bloody loves making your controller shake at any given moment, to the point that it can actually become a bit too distracting. So if you want to turn this down just a little, head over to the control setting, find vibration, then you'll be given a slider. We found the sweet spot to be around 6 or 7, but have a play yourself and find the perfect setting for you. Speaking of controller settings, these two are actually pretty important, as without them the combat can become a bit annoying. So the first you want to make sure is enabled is auto lock when attacking, otherwise you will have to manually lock onto every enemy, which can become super frustrating when you're in a crowd. And this next option can be found in the accessibility menu, and we're looking for the option of quick time events to automatically succeed, because let's be honest, they're completely pointless. Sometimes I just want to watch a scene without having to press a button on my controller at a random interval. I mean, who even wants to do that these days? While playing Stellar Blade, the HUD can actually be pretty important, and you'll be given 3 options as to how they display on your screen. Either off completely, the dynamic setting which will show the HUD at key moments, or always on. Personally, I would recommend a dynamic setting, as Stellar Blade is such a visually appealing game. You want as much clutter removed from the screen when it's not necessary, so having it only appear at key times is the perfect option. The only thing in this instance I'd recommend to do is to change the HUD size to large if you're playing your game on a decent sized TV or monitor. Now, onto the juicy stuff. Which graphics options is the best to use while playing Stellar Blade? Well, you have 3 options: performance, balanced, or resolution focused. Performance mode allows for 1440p running at 60 frames per second, but it does come at the sacrifice of the resolution and can lead to the images looking soft. Resolution mode goes full 4K mode, but will result in the the game running at 30 frames per second, a quite frankly unheard of frame rate for next gen in 2024. Considering Stellar Blade is an extremely fast-paced game, I'd strongly avoid this setting, which leaves us with the final option, Balanced, which offers a resolution that switches between 1080p and 1440p while running mostly at 60 frames per second. This is the default setting out of the box, and I personally see no reason to change it, as it's what the game performs at best. And the final setting, Eve's Ponytail. Now, hear me out. At first, I thought the ridiculously long ponytail was kind of badass, but as you go through the game and start jumping around and dodging your way out of trouble, it can become a bit jarring, which is why the devs have introduced the ability to toggle Eve's ponytail length between short and long to suit your needs, with this setting being found in the gameplay tab. And there you have it. Now you're all set to play Stellar Blade with the perfect settings. And while you've been watching this video, YouTube's algorithm has been working hard in the background to find the perfect video from our channel just for you to watch. So why not go check it out?